all of the photos that I'm going to show you in this video, they were used by way of metering with this new little Keks M Meter, specifically designed for older Leica M rangefinders, and it has definitely breathed new life into my old M3. But also, since I've been using this M3 for about a year and a couple months now, this is going to be kind of my 1-year review of using the M3. As much as I hate to utter that phrase, but I don't know, some people might be interested in that because I actually did come off of the M6. Well, my very first Leica M was the M8. Then I traded my M8 for an M6 non-TTL, which is so crazy of a trade, I just had to do it. And then I went through a period where I was shooting with both the M6 and the M10, and that was like the perfect combo, but it just seemed like a rich boy flex, and I am not a rich boy by any means. It just seemed like a crazy level of like expensive gear for someone of my caliber to be using, if that makes any sense, in both my economic status and in like my picture taking status. It just seemed weird to me. So I ended up getting rid of both the M10 and the M6, but then I was kind of like missing just shooting on film in general, but specifically I still had all of my Leica M lenses because I do use my Leica M lenses on all of my cinema cameras. That's one of the reasons why I sold the M6. I got $3,000 for it, and I took that money and put it towards a Sony FX6, because if you don't know, I have a whole nother filmmaking channel. So anyways, but I was missing like just the rangefinder. So I went down a little bit of that rabbit hole. I was using the Voigtlander Bessa T for a while. Those Voigtlander cameras are cool. I love that the meter is on the outside, but the problem is they're mainly all plastic. They're just not the feel of a Leica M rangefinder. And my biggest gripe with the Voigtlander Bessa was how loud the shutter was. I hear a lot of people talking how they love the loud shutter slap of a lot of cameras, and I'm just like, ooh, like once you use the cloth shutter of a Leica M rangefinder, you never want to hear a shutter slap ever again. Certainly not for street photography. It kind of like gives you away. So I just ended up going for, I guess, what would be one of the cheapest Leica M rangefinders, this M3. And so I've been using it since about September or August of last year. So it's been a minute since I've been using this camera, and all of the photos that I'm sharing with you were taken with this camera, but specifically for this video, they were also metered with this Leica M Keks Meter, which I just got like a couple weeks ago. Not sponsored. I bought this with my own money. I had to wait for like 3 months to get it in the mail, but it has totally breathed new life into this M3. I absolutely love it. As you can see, like the results of my photos got better clearly because now I'm metering again because normally I would just like put my lens to f8, leave my shutter at 1/25th of a second, and away I go, right? And when you're doing that, you tend to get a lot of gnarly photos. You've seen some of those gnarly photographs already, both here on this channel and the Instagram. So be sure to give us a follow over there at the Freeway Life. Somehow Keks completely were able to just, dare I say, copy the original Leica design and just enhanced it for our current day of 2025. Just slammed it full of tech. You can charge this thing via USB-C. The battery on this is really good. I'm sure you've noticed the majority of these photos were with the Los Angeles Dodgers World Series parade and downtown LA after party. And so I spent 6 hours downtown. Like I was on the streets for 6 hours straight. When I first got there, this meter was 100%. 6 hours shooting, using it all day. So you can use this as a spot meter, or you can even set it to continuously metering, to where it's just always metering no matter where you point it. I was doing kind of a combo of both, and on the train ride home, it had only dropped down to 80%. So 6 hours using it on the streets and only burned up 20% of that battery. I thought that was really impressive. And then I had to go back to work, shoot some video stuff. So the meter kind of sat on the shelf for about 4 days, and it had dropped from 80% to 30% by just the 4 days of just doing nothing, just sitting turned off. So be advised of that. It does burn over time when it's even just sitting and the power is off. But I plugged it in, and within 10 minutes, I shit you not, it jumped all the way up to 60% charged in less than 10 minutes. It was wild to see how fast it charges, knowing like how long that charge is gonna last. Needless to say, I'm impressed by the battery. You have exposure comp on this, so that's been really rad. As soon as I put it on the camera, I set it to like plus 2/3. There's some huge bonuses about this though, right? Again, I'm not an affiliate of these guys. Obviously, the code down below is is a partner link because I am partnered with B&H because of my other filmmaking channel, but I don't have any, I do not care if you buy this or not, right? But I think if you are on an older M body, it's just gonna be like, wow, man. You know, I think about when I had the M6, I always had to raise the camera to my eye to meter, and that kind of gives you away, right? It kind of bones you. And I've talked here on the past about how Leica M rangefinders are such like an eyesore anyways. Like everybody notices a Leica M rangefinder. And the funny thing is a lot of people out there, they think that it's a X100V. That's the camera I want to get. And I'm like, I don't think it is, you know, because everyone thinks this is the Fuji camera, not knowing that this camera is like 70 years old. You know, if you had like an M6 or an M7 or even a digital M, you have to put it to your eye to meter. Getting away from that with the Voigtlander Besso is my favorite part. However, the Voigtlander meter is on the back of the camera, so you got to kind of do this weird thing. But now with this Keks meter, it's so rad. I just look down and I can just be, you know, adjusting the shutter, because having this meter is pretty much like having shutter priority on this old Leica camera now. It really is. If you've used any of these older Leica M rangefinders, you know how tiny the shutter dial is. I had the non-TTL M6 and it had a very tiny shutter dial too, but now that the Keks meter, again, it's designed just like the original Leica meter, right? So it has its own shutter dial that attaches to the top of the Leica shutter dial. So then anytime you move the shutter dial on the meter, it's moving the shutter dial on the camera. In the paperwork out of the box, it does say that you may have to calibrate this. I didn't have to do that though. Mine was already synced. So hopefully yours comes out of the box already synced as well, because I guess they have directions on how to calibrate it. I don't know if that would be a pain in the butt or not, but I love having that larger shutter dial now. That's a rad thing too. If you've ever used these older M's, you know, they have the really cool advanced lever. The advanced lever on the M6, in my opinion, is cheap. I hate that it has a little plastic elbow on it. So having this nice lever on the M3 is like, oh, I love it. The downside is it has these little ridges on the backside of it that just dig into my chest when I'm wearing the camera around my neck. Even though the lever still sticks out further than the back of the meter, somehow the meter is adding just a tiny little bit of counterweight to kind of like pull it away from my chest. So now the advanced lever doesn't dig into my chest anymore. That was kind of like a hidden bonus of this meter. Now, speaking to the rest of kind of like using the M3 for about a year and 2 months now, and coming off of the M6 and the other Voigtlander Besso camera, until I got this meter, I really was missing my M6. And a lot of it, I think, was because of the fact that I was always shooting blind, I felt like. Now, I had a little pocket Sekonic meter. I used it quite often, but when I was shooting street, like real street, like going to Venice or going downtown LA, I don't have time to meter every single like moment that's happening. You know, I'm a very chaotic street shooter. If I see something, boom, 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 you know, I'm sure you've seen the shorts and things here. I don't have the time to meter that. The only time I'm metering stuff, it's like, it's an old car, it's an old building or some bull crap like that, right? Then obviously I'm gonna take the time to meter it correctly. But if I'm shooting real street, I never had the time to meter it correctly. Whereas the M6, because, you know, you look into the viewfinder, you have that meter there, you just know. So I was missing that. But now having this, oh man, I love it. And the fact that I don't have to hold it to my eye to meter it, you know, I was like, oh, I don't think I care about the M6 anymore at all. But also keep in mind, when I bought this M3, it came with the rapid load kit. It's a little bit similar to the M6 loading. It's still a bit of a pain in the ass. It's not as good as the M6, M4 loading system, but I don't know. I feel like it's a little quicker than what the original M2 and M3 loading system was. So bear that in mind. There were quite a few upgrades to this M3. It's one of the reasons why I bought it. So not only did it come with that rapid load kit, it also came with M4 flash ports. However, I already burnt up the port on this, so I'm pretty bummed out. I'm dragging my feet taking this back to Steve's camera because I don't know how much that's going to cost to replace that. But yeah, I did blow out the port somehow, some way. But before that happened, it did have, you know, updated ports, because the original M3, you have to use some sort of adapter for the flash sync port. There were some other little bonuses of this thing too, and I'll tag a video of like my unboxing of this camera. But I do absolutely love using a rangefinder. There is something about just the beauty of not being bothered by seeing the depth of field, and Winogrand has done beautiful talks on this. I was kind of the guy that found that old video on Winogrand, so the fact that mine got a published date before all of these other ones is just kind of a bummer when you see that. You're like, oh, they took my idea and then they have a larger audience. But I guess that's the way it goes. That's the nature of the beast on YouTube, you know. But again, I guess what was I doing really? I was just giving commentary on what I had found about Winogrand, talking about the simplicity and the beauty of using a Leica rangefinder. And one of the things he talks about is the fact that you can't see the depth of field. And his big argument is comparing photographers to illustrators. And this is back in the 70s, you know, so you have to imagine, but there's just a beauty to that of not seeing what the lens sees. It is a challenge at first, but it's one of the things that made me fall in love with the Leica rangefinders to begin with, because I felt like it was making me a better photographer. Now, the kind of street that I do is very chaotic and very loose and crazy, and I don't think a lot of people think that I am a good street photographer. I don't even know if I believe that, but I do think that there is something to be said about having a tool, or some people call it an instrument. I think there is something to be said about that, of like, look, what if you had no technology whatsoever and you had to create an image with it, meaning you couldn't see what the lens was seeing, you couldn't see what the depth of field was doing, you couldn't see what the shutter speed was doing, you can't see anything what's happening. All you can see is the world you're looking at with little four corners around it, right? That is the true challenge, right? To see, like, yeah, let's see how good of a photographer you are, right? Or as Winogrand would say, he would put money that you're just an illustrator, because you need all that technology to help you make a better picture. And that's a really wild argument, right? That was the whole point of everything about my commentary on what Winogrand was saying. I don't know what those other videos were saying, because I haven't watched them, because I don't want to give them the view, because I just know by the thumbnail and the title that they stole my idea. Now I'm like sounding like the guy from that Stephen King novel, right?
You stole my story.
There's definitely some beauty to it. And I think a lot of people that have not given the Leica rangefinder a chance, and I know because I've gotten the hate on Threads and Reddit and YouTube and Instagram, where people just, you know, they'll go after you just because they say you're flexing because you have a Leica or something, but they're only looking at it as like the jewelry that it can be identified as, right? Because there's no doubt about it, you know, Leica rangefinder specifically, I mean, honestly, any Leica camera, especially nowadays, is kind of looked at more as like a some kind of accessory or jewelry item, like a Rolex. So that's one type of Leica user, right? But then there are another type of Leica users that are actually trying to become something, right? Like they actually do care about photography, and they feel like the instrument, dare I call it, they feel like the instrument is the proper one to help them become that better image maker, become a better photographer, and not be so much an illustrator. And I think that if you've never given one a try, you know, the M2s, the M3s, even the M4s are very affordable compared to the other Leicas. Now, I know you'd have to shoot film, and that's always kind of like, ugh, but honestly, man, the film kind of ties into it. I shoot so much black and white, you know, in these Kentmere 400s that I've been sharing with you, I hand roll these. I've been hand rolling my own black and white. I home develop them, I home scan them. I love that. Like, there's something about it having like no middleman. There's nothing going on, right? It's me, I take the picture, I develop the picture, I scan the picture, right? I am the machine, right? This camera allows me to be the machine, so to speak, right? In terms of like what is being created and what is being presented to the world. Now, also you'll notice in here, I snuck in some Kodacolor 100. I am going to be doing a video on like, because I still have a roll of Kodacolor 200, but we're taking that to the beach in a couple days. So I'm going to have a separate dedicated video on Kodacolor 100 and 200. So be sure you're subscribed. At the end of the day, you know, we all know that the tool doesn't make the image. It's the person using the tool or instrument, whatever you want to call it, right? We all know that. We can identify with that. The only downside with this is now that I have this meter on here, I can't like use my external viewfinders anymore. It is a little tricky, but the actual whole window, it is actually pretty damn close to the frame of a 35mm. That's why I've always used this 40mm as my main hero lens on this camera. So if I'm just doing casual street, like here in my own neighborhood, my own community, just kind of riding around on the e-bike, whatever, just taking pictures of old cars and just random stuff, I normally just have this 40mm Summicron on here. It works great. It's pretty much just the whole window. But the 28mm is when I go do real street, like in downtown or the beach or something, then I do usually use a viewfinder. But I shot that whole day at the Dodgers party without the viewfinder, obviously, because I had this meter on there, and it was no big deal. I just kind of, you know, I just keep in mind, like, the whole window is pretty much a 35, and just knowing, like, yeah, you're obviously going to have extra because a 28 is wider than a 35. That is the biggest downside. Maybe one day I'll ditch this old M3, and maybe what I would get is like an M4P, because I can just take this meter with me and throw it on the M4P. And I say that because the M4P does have 28mm frame lines. But the one thing that I will miss if I do ever get rid of this focus is the huge rangefinder patch that is in this camera. It's one of the reasons why I love it so much. And that's all you have to do for critical focus, no matter what your lens is. We might be going down the weeds too much there, but this Keks M Meter has just breathed whole new life into this M3. So much more enjoyable to use, and having that exposure comp is really cool too. Yeah, that's gonna do it. We talked enough. I hope you enjoyed the photos. Let me know what you think down below. And yeah, man, Mac Miller for life.
And if you have the proper luck and the holy endurance, the gods just might deliver.